Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my Author's Answer video for February 2023. The Author's Answer series was started by J.D. Archer and his writing group. He started it on his blog and then brought it to AuthorTube for a while, and I will link to his AuthorTube playlist and also his blog down below. And I have been answering these questions sequentially, one per month for the past several years. They were a very prolific writing group where they asked themselves a variety of reading and writing related questions. And so I'll also link to my own playlist down below. So anyway, this month I am up to question number 71, which is to talk about the merits of standalone novels versus a series, or I guess it could apply more broadly than just novels. And it also talks a little about, reading versus writing, or, for both of them. And so my first thought really when it comes to this, hesitation about series and also, really long works, is just, the fear of the page count, just putting all of that time in. It just, can drive people batty. And it makes me think of watching TBR games, which I watch a lot of on BookTube, and how people freak out whenever they get large books. And it makes me think about the fact that we so much privilege quantity over everything else. Like, how many books can you cram into a TBR? And I keep on thinking, I wonder if somebody could start a TBR game where the point is that you start the month or whatever with X amount of pages that you tell yourself you have to read per month, and whether you read them in one book or 10 books, it doesn't matter. It'd be fun if somebody started that game. I know I won't, so because I have so much to read myself, and frankly I'm as guilty as anyone of putting off long books, and oftentimes I force them on myself when they get to me on the top of my Goodreads TBR. I guess in general, I chafe a little at the question because it just doesn't seem to take the context into account that the length of a story depends on the scope of the story. Some books are told in fewer words, some are told in more words. When it comes to long books versus series, I'm not quite sure how people figure that out. There's people like Samantha Shannon who wrote The Priory of the Orange Tree in her new book, and they're, 800 to 1,000 pages long on their own. There's nonfiction, like the big one I'm reading for the BookTube Prize this round, which is, 800 to 1,000 words, and some of them also are, told in volumes, like Barack Obama's memoir. I think the next one will be coming out sooner or later, I don't know. But anyway, I don't know how people exactly come up with the distinctions about that. Maybe just stopping points in the story. But, some, ideas just have a larger scope, and that's okay. Though to be fair, I respect another reason why readers might not like the idea of a series is having to wait for something that may or may not get finished. It's nice to have a book in hand where the end of the story is at the end of the book, versus when you have some authors, like, say, George R.R. Martin and the Game of Thrones series, A Song of Ice and Fire, where it seems less and less likely that we'll ever see the official end of that story. So I think something like that has turned a lot of, especially science fiction and fantasy readers, off of the idea of series. Although I say that with the knowledge that there's still a lot of series being written in science fiction and fantasy, and other genres as well. So I guess I'll transition from being a reader into a writer. And one of the major reasons I know writers of any genre, but especially those that lean into series might not like the idea of writing a series, is that when you're an unknown, there's no guarantee that you can get your whole series published, and there's a lot of guidance and suggestions about how to approach agents. Like, I personally have a fantasy novel that I'm writing, but in my head, it's going on into a series, but nobody, publishes a series for an unknown writer off the bat. You have to prove yourself with your first book. So like in the query letter, you say it's a book with series potential, but it has to stand on its own because they're only going to publish other books if your first one does well. And then that leaves you in the lurch of, if your first book doesn't do well and you want to continue it as a series and the publisher won't publish, then what do you do? I'm not entirely sure of the legalities. Maybe in some cases, at least, if it's that bad, you could self-publish the rest, possibly. I'm not quite sure about that. Or hopefully the best case scenario is, of course, that your book does well enough that it can continue. But I think people still are drawn to writing series anyway when the scope of their ideas, go past just one novel. And it's a big enough industry that a lot of people are still getting away with it. And thank goodness, because I personally go to science fiction and fantasy especially for, those big grand ideas that, might encompass more than one normal page count for one book. And sometimes it happens in other types of genres as well, like in literary fiction and the Neapolitan novels by Elena Ferrante, which certainly encompassed more than one book. So anyway, I guess that's pretty much where I stand on long books and series as a reader and a writer. That, yeah, of course there's some pitfalls to the idea of them, but in general I hope they stay around because I like some of this maximist fiction and nonfiction that might encompass a lot. So that about covers it for me now, and I will leave links to the books and series that I mentioned that are published down below. And I should be back on this channel in a couple of days to do my first Friday Reads video, hopefully a Friday Reads video of the month, so stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Keep writing, and I'll see you next time.